Hollywood spotlight shines brightly on graphic novelist Blake Leibel. With mansions, Ferraris, a model wife, and gorgeous girlfriends at his beck and call.
Torture, mayhem, murder. In 2016, new mother Yana Cassian was barbarically mutilated and gruesomely murdered inside the Hollywood condo she shared. The murder scene looked like something out of a gut-churning horror flick, and as it turns out, there was a very good reason for that.
How difficult is it for a newborn baby to grow up without their biological mother? It's difficult, right? But now picture that mother's life being taken away mercilessly by her own father just weeks after giving birth. That's beyond disturbing, isn't it? Well, that's precisely what Blake Leibel, the heir of one of Canada's wealthiest and most controversial real estate developers, did to his fiancée. But let's not rush to that part of the story, and first get to know more about his luxurious lifestyle and what led him to commit this unimaginable and horrific crime. Blake Leibel was born in Toronto, Canada in 1981 to a very wealthy family. His father, Lorne Leibel, was quite a well-known real estate developer and a former Olympic athlete, while on the other hand, his mother, Eleanor Leibel, was well known in Toronto social circles. Blake had a very privileged upbringing, as he had almost everything that he wished for in his childhood. But as he grew up, his parents' marriage started to deteriorate for some personal and unknown reasons. Blake then started living with his mother, while his older brother went to go on to live with his father. And despite the significant wealth and privilege that Lorne provided for his family, Blake's relationship with his father appeared to have been complex. While Lorne financially supported Blake, including giving him a substantial monthly allowance in the years leading up to the murder, Blake reportedly felt pressure from his father's achievements. And despite a somewhat wealthy yet unsettling upbringing, Blake carved out a name for himself. After moving to Los Angeles, he made a mark in the creative world. He wrote graphic novels, directed films, and even produced an animated series. His most notable work was the graphic novel Syndrome in 2010, which he co-wrote with Daniel Quantz and R.J. Ryan. The story follows a neuroscientist running a psychological experiment to uncover the origins of evil and human behavior centered on a serial killer. The themes of control, violence, and manipulation ran deep, foreshadowing the real-life crime Blake would eventually commit. Blake's obsession with violent themes, particularly the idea of controlling life and death, started to surface more in his creative projects, mirroring his own mental decline. In 2008, he worked on Spaceballs, the animated series, a spin-off of the 1987 Mel Brooks film. He was credited as a director and writer for a few episodes, and while this gave him a bit of recognition in Hollywood, it wasn't the big break he needed. His work in film and TV stayed mostly on the sidelines, and he struggled to make a real name for himself in the industry. Blake's life seemed to be on the right track, until 2011. That year, he faced the immense trauma of losing his mother, Eleanor Leibel, who had stood by him through thick and thin. Her death had a profound impact on Blake. In the wake of her passing, he sued his brother and father over his inheritance, throwing family dynamics into chaos. This lawsuit is thought to have further strained his already complicated relationship with his father. It highlighted the deep-seated tensions within the family and Blake's increasing financial dependence on them because, despite Blake being a very creative member of the family, he was still reliant on his father's money for his monthly allowance, and he wasn't able to earn enough to provide for himself. After his mother's death, Blake grew more isolated, and his mental health seemed to take a nosedive. It's likely that Eleanor's passing was a catalyst for his emotional instability, especially since he'd already been living in a chaotic life in Los Angeles. She had been a stabilizing force for him, and losing her may have pushed him closer to a psychological breakdown, ultimately leading to the murder of his fiancée, Lana Cassian. Before Lana entered Blake's life, he was married to another woman named Amanda Braun. Together they had 2 children, but their relationship started to fall apart, resulting in their separation. The specifics of their marriage are a bit unknown, as Blake didn't give out anything to the public, but reports indicate that Blake was already struggling with personal instability during that time, especially as he got more involved in the Los Angeles entertainment scene. And despite still being married, he began a relationship with Lana Kassane, which ultimately led him to become more disturbed and depressed in his already stressed life. Lana Kassane was a Ukrainian-born model and actress who arrived in the US with dreams of a better future, though she had a little in terms of resources, contacts, or access. She met Blake in 2014, but the details of their first encounter remain murky. It's said to be facilitated by some mutual friends. Their relationship progressed rapidly, leading to an engagement. By 2016, Lana had moved in with Blake, and they welcomed a beautiful daughter in Los Angeles. But who could have imagined that just weeks after their newborn's arrival, Lana would be murdered? Before the murder, signs of trouble began to emerge. Though their relationship had progressed quickly and they shared a daughter, that didn't mean they were truly happy together. Friends of Lana later reported that their bond was deteriorating, a storm brewing beneath the surface. There were allegations of controlling behavior from Blake, alongside instances of emotional and physical abuse that left Lana feeling trapped. She reached out to family and friends, desperately seeking a way out, but Blake's manipulative nature made it a struggle. It became clear that Lana was unhappy and living in fear, yet despite the warnings from loved ones to end it all, she felt an unshakable attachment to him. She held on, determined to keep her family together, clinging to the hope that Blake might one day understand her and that their family could become the joyful unit she so desperately visualized. But unfortunately, she was proved wrong in May 2016. On May the 26th, Lana Kassane was found dead in her apartment, blood spattered across the room. Initially, suspicion fell on Blake as he was with her at the time. But was he truly the killer? Let's dive deeper into this chilling case. On that fateful night, police officers were called to the couple's West Hollywood apartment after being alerted by neighbors of a potential disturbance. When officers arrived, they found that Blake had barricaded the entrances with mattresses and had locked himself in the bedroom. Once the officers broke through the barriers, what they found was chilling. They saw Blake next to Lana's lifeless body, but that's not all. They found a sharp object, either a paring knife or a razor, from the couple's bedroom in Blake's hands, and scattered on the floor strips of pieces of what seemed to be Lana's scalp. It was reported that Lana's cause of death was severe blood loss. She was tortured for 6 hours before succumbing to her injuries. During that harrowing time, she was still alive and breathing, able to feel each agonizing moment and pain. Her death was a slow, excruciating one. But what's more shocking is what investigators uncovered next. They found that Lana's murder mirrored a storyline from the Syndrome graphic novel, which Blake had funded and helped author years earlier. The book, of which features a cover picture of a baby doll with a partially removed scalp, includes depictions of bloodletting. When Lana's body was found, prosecutors revealed that most of the blood was drained from her body. This revelation pointed straight at Blake, who was ultimately convicted of Lana's tragic death. Reports from the night of the murder said there were heated arguments pushing Blake to commit this horrific crime. Those arguments were not the only factor. Whispers of power, jealousy, and anger floated around, suggesting that Blake was triggered when Lana's attention shifted from him to their newborn. With solid evidence stacked against him, jurors took less than 4 hours to convict Blake Leibel, 37, the heir of a wealthy Canadian family, of first-degree murder, aggravated mayhem, and torture in the brutal slaying of Lana Kassane, 30. The judge didn't hold back, sentencing him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. To top it off, he was hit with an order to pay Kassane's family nearly $50 million, a grim reminder of the tragedy he caused. And with that, we wrap up today's horrifying case where a newborn is left to grow up alone without both parents, all because her father couldn't control the raging fire of emotions inside him, resulting in one of the most heinous crimes imaginable. If you enjoyed this video and want to support us, we need your help to hit that subscribe button so that we can hit that number quickly. Until then, take care and goodbye.